Hey y'all, I'm gonna cook me some sweet potatoes today. So I've got my skillet. I washed 4 sweet potatoes. And I think y'all are thinking, oh Brenda, you wear that shirt every day. Well honey, it's because that I'm doing all these recipes in one day and I have to change my apron so that I know what recipe I'm doing when I'm trying to hook those things together. So you take your 4 potatoes and you've got to grease them because that's going to make the peeling so tender that it just falls off the potatoes. It's really easy. So take you any kind of grease you want to. I try not to use my expensive olive oil grease. I try to use something solid. Today I'm using lard. You can use whatever you want to. You put this on your hands like this. And you pick up a potato and you rub him good. Rub him good. Put him back in there. You can wrap these individually if you want to. All right? And make sure that you get them done real good like that. Then all I do is if I've got a top that'll fit on this, I do, but I'm using my top on my collar, so I don't have another one. Or you can just do some foil and put that over the top of these potatoes. I cook about at 400. Then I get a skewer and I stick through the foil and everything into a potato. If it glides in easily, it's done. If you have to push a little bit, then you need to cook a little longer. And that's all it is to a sweet potato. I mean, how simple is that? Now, the hardest part of cooking a sweet potato is getting this grease off your hands. Sometimes I think that I ought not even get it off. I just need to smear it all over my face. That's what I probably need to do, just smear it all over my face. So y'all been watching me for a few days cooking one meal. And we're having the meatloaf, the collards, and the sweet potatoes. And I might make a little pan of cornbread. Okay. And that's all it is to making these. And then once they're good and tender, you want to serve them hot. And what we do is we just split ours down the middle of it. And we put a big pat of butter in there. And we put, sprinkle some brown sugar. And we put a little cinnamon. And that's delicious. But I like them just like this. Just plain with butter. But George told me that when he was a boy, y'all know I've got this old farm table over here. It's a 2-board table. Here's a board, and there's a board. And every one of these nails that are in this table are square nails. That's a square nail. And all that's the square nails. Every one of them, they nailed it in. And this table came from George's grandmother's house. And actually belonged to his great-great-grandmother. And we went over there and got it. And these things on it, like that circle or that dark spot right there, that's where they used to lay their salt and meat. And it did that to it. That crack won't close up because what they did, you can see the 2x4s underneath it. What they did is this. They cut the wood themselves. We had a sawmill here on this property. And this tree was that wide. It's probably wider than that. Big trees. And so they made the table. Well, they didn't dry the wood out first. You're supposed to dry your wood and let the shrinkage happen before you build something with it. And obviously they did not dry it out. They just built this table. And then it drew up. In other words, I'm sure they had it together to start with, and then it shrunk. Look how they did the corners. Like that. They're rounded. so that the children wouldn't punch their eye out, I imagine, running around in the house. My Uncle Pickett's told me, he told this tale. He said when they were little, the boy babies and the girl babies wore nightgowns. And they tried to crawl around in their nightgown and whatever, and it came down way below their legs. And so he said his mother, because he kept getting in so much trouble. Here's another corner over here. You might can see it better since the light's better on this side. He said his mother would pick up the table like this and put his gown, the end of his gown, up under the leg of that table where he couldn't crawl off. And she did him that way in the kitchen where she could watch him, and she'd give him a little something to play with, a little spoon or something like that to play with. And he said, and I had to stay under that table. He said, I remember her putting me under there. And said she'd just put my gown, just hook it up under the table leg and then keep him kind of... And today they've got them in playpens, and they've got gates in the house trying to corral the kids in a room and doing all this stuff. And you might be saying, oh, that is child cruelty to put him under there. Well, I don't think so. She loved him. She was trying to protect him, keep him out of the way of whatever she was cooking. Probably had a wood stove. I mean, here's what I say. If you hadn't walked in somebody's shoes, then quit talking about them. Because you don't know what they're going through. That's what I say. You always said just walk by shoes, then you might change your tune about this, that, or the other. Well, you hadn't walked in my shoes, so you need to tell me what to do, and I hadn't walked in yours. All I'm saying is that we do what we have to keep our kids safe and help them to grow up right. And I know what I did, and you know what you did or didn't do that you would have done. I remember one time I told y'all I was watching before I had children. George and I were sitting there watching the news, and they showed a woman and man with their little boy. And they had this harness on him, coming around like that and doing in the back, and walking down the streets of New York City. And it was like a leash hooked to it. They were just letting him walk around. They were holding that leash like you would a dog. And I said, I would never do that. That's the cruelest thing I've ever seen in my life, putting a leash on a child. But when I had my kids, and my little boy was running around getting in the round racks at Penny's, and I couldn't find him, or he'd get lost or whatever, I changed my tune real quickly. And why did I? Because I wasn't walking in that woman's shoes. That's the reason. And so I talked about her. But when I had one of my own, I ate my words. And you know what? This is what I always say about walking in somebody else's shoes and stuff like that. And I've heard some of y'all say, oh, my children would never do that. Well, honey, please don't say that, because your children will be the first one that does that. Don't ever say that, because if you do, just as sure as Putin, your child will be the very one that starts it. You know it's so, don't you? You know it's so. So let's quit talking about people and what they're doing or not doing. You hadn't walked in their shoes. You hadn't walked in their shoes. You don't know. I love y'all. Cook you some sweet potatoes. They're really healthy. Look that up too. I told you the other day to look up the collards. Well, look up this and just see what a sweet potato gives you. You go start doing sweet potato fries too.